Oh, oh, Jesus. Oh, fuck. Huh? Oh. Oh. God fucking damn it. Hello everyone, it is your favourite Plague Doctor, and following my abysmal upload schedule, I've decided to switch things up a bit. Now initially I was trying to do monthly reviews, but I don't know if you've seen those videos and the release dates, so that idea kind of fizzled out. So instead, I thought I'd pivot into a much easier path of yearly reviews. Today, I'm going to be going over a stack here and talk about my reading goals for 2025. I'll first go over the manga I plan to read, then the books, and at the end of the year, I'll do another review comparing how successful I was, and maybe even a tier list going over my favorite books and what I thought of them. I should also preface this by saying I do not expect to get through all of these books, but I'm just going to go over my TBR list that I hope to get through this year. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So currently, these are the manga I plan to read. Allow me to just show you. These are all the series I plan to read this year, and to begin with, we have Berserk. Now, if you didn't know, I've actually been reading Berserk this year. Well, actually last year, and honestly, I have been loving it. But after a while, I took a little bit of a break because I kind of wanted to read some other books, and I plan on getting back into it this year. Currently, I am on volume 30, on chapter, I believe, 263, so in the Millennium Falcon arc, and I have been absolutely loving it, so I cannot wait to get back into this series. Next, we have Delicious in Dungeon. I've heard a lot of really good things about this series. My partner loves it, and so do some of my other friends. I've, of course, seen the memes as well, especially with our boy Leos over here, and it just looks like a pretty light and fun series, so I thought, hey, why not give it a shot? I plan to read it first and then watch it, just because I kind of want to see it and, get fully up to date, and also collect it because, I'm an absolute whore for manga collections, so I'm really looking forward to getting into the series. Just something nice and light and fun. Next, we have Beastars. I used to be a massive fan of this series. I even got volumes 6 and 7 since they lead on from where the first season of the anime finishes. And I just never got around to finishing the series. But I really enjoyed it, and I decided to just read it instead of watching it. Even though I know the anime is in its final season, I just much prefer Pyro Itagaki's style, and I'm really looking forward to getting back into this series. Next is The Summer Hikaru Died. I've heard a lot of really good things about this. The anime adaptation is going out soon. When I went to the book clerk to buy this, to ask where they had it, they were saying to me that apparently this series is really good. It's really quick to get through. Apparently they binge read the entire thing in like a night. So I'm looking forward to seeing what all this hype is about, since I really like this art style, and apparently it's really scary. So hopefully I really end up enjoying this series. Next, we have Ajin Demi-Human. I've heard apparently this series is absolutely terrifying. I saw a short video about how creative the power system in this was, so I'm quite interested to check it out. Initially, I was going to watch the anime, except for the fact that it kind of looks like dog shit, and from what I've seen, the art in this looks really fucking cool. I mean, look at this cover. This shit looks amazing. So I'm really interested to check this out. Hopefully, it's a really cool horror series, and overall, I'm just really excited to see what all the hype's about. Next is Goku Rakugai. Now, I found this manga back when I was looking through Pinterest for drawing inspo, and I'd seen some of the character designs, and it looks so fucking cool. And also, I just really like this art style as well. I've read some panels, seen some art, and overall, this series looks really cool. It looks like a pretty easy read. There's only 27 chapters out now, so I kind of just want to get caught up on it, and yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Next is Summertime Rendering. Now, I'd seen that the anime for this was out, and I also saw there weren't too many volumes, so I was like, hey, being the manga whore I am, why not collect these? And apparently this series is really scary. It's also quite good from what I've heard, and I'm just quite interested to, see what it has to offer, and yeah, I'm looking forward to reading it. And finally, for my manga goals, we have Dorohedoro. Now, I watched the first season of this anime and I read up to about volume 10 of the manga, picking up from after where the anime finished. And I loved this series. I love the aesthetics, I love the characters, I love the power system with the magic. This series is really fucking cool. In fact, it has been a very heavy inspiration on my own works as well. I cosplayed as Shin. He is the first character I've ever cosplayed, so I have quite a soft spot for us. But also, the art in this series is really fucking cool. I think the anime is a bit underrated, but unfortunately, it just can't match this art style. So I'm planning on reading the entire thing, and I'm really looking forward to getting around to finally reading this series.
And next, we have my book reading goals. I had to put these on my fucking chair because I tried stacking them on my desk and they fell, so now they're leaning here. Let's get this shit underway.
First things first, we have The Fall of Five. This is book 4 in the Lorien Legacy series. I am currently reading The Rise of Nine, which is book 3. I know, a little bit of a weird naming convention, but who gives a fuck? This series I adored when I was a kid. I fucking loved it. I ate that shit up. I loved I Am Number 4. Currently, it's not bad, just fairly mediocre. Right, Power of 6, it was actually pretty decent. Rise of 9, not too bad, so I'm kind of interested to see how this one is. I plan on reading the rest of the series. I've got all the other books, but currently, it's just been okay. I'm just kind of getting through the books. That being said, they're very easy to get through. Like, I've been smashing these out. I've only been reading Rise of 9 for about a week, and nearly finished it, which is a big surprise for me since it takes me usually like a month even just to finish a book this size. So I kind of surprised myself how quickly I'm getting through them, but I'm interested to see these. I never actually ended up finishing the series. That is a little bit of a thing with me. I'm not very good at finishing book series. The Reckoners was actually the first book series I actually finished. So, and this was where I actually stopped. This was the last book I read of the series before I just sort of gave up on it. I ended up getting The Revenge of Seven, which is book 5, and I just never ended up reading it. So I'll be looking forward to actually finally finishing this series and getting to put it to rest. So I'm looking forward to getting back into it. Next, we have the Mistborn Era 1 series with The Final Empire. Now, I'm reading this series to properly get into Brandon Sanderson's. My entryway to Brandon Sanderson's was The Reckoners. But if you properly want to get into his work, specifically The Cosmere, you start with this, apparently. So, I'm starting with Mistborn. As you see, I've read a little bit of this book, and honestly, I fucking loved it. This is really interesting. I've heard a lot of good things about this. One of my friends, massive fan, he has been harping at me to get more into his works, especially to start Mistborn, and yeah, so I'm really looking forward to getting properly into his works. I've seen a little bit of the magic system. I've heard that is one of the best parts of his series, that he creates these really interesting magic systems. So, and from what I've seen with Allomancy, seems really cool. And yeah, I'm really hyped to finally get into this series. So, wish me luck. Next, we have Dune. Now, as you can see again, I've read a little bit of this, and I really liked it. I am a massive fan of the movies. I fucking love them. So I'm really interested to finally get around to reading these books. And I'm really interested to read the rest of the series. I think I'm going to read the entire series. Now, I know some people say you can stop at number 4. People say that you don't have to read 5 and 6, but I just kind of want to, so because I'm not one to just stop there. I know, a little bit ironic, but I'm really interested to get into this series. I've heard a lot of good things about Dune Messiah, and I'm really looking forward to getting up to God Emperor of Dune, Dune 4, since I've heard that is absolutely batshit insane. And I'm just really looking forward to getting into this series, since I love the movies, and I'm really interested to see where it goes from here. Next, we have the Magisterium series with Book 1, The Iron Trial. This is another book series I loved as a kid that I never got around to finishing. This one, from memory, was basically like Harry Potter, but darker. I really love this series. I remember thinking the magic system was really fucking cool. And I was absolutely invested in this story. Every year when a new book would come out, I would beg my parents to get it for me for Christmas. And once again, I got up to the last book, not the last book, sorry, the second last book, The Silver Mask, I think it's called. And I was like, oh shit, there's this big cliffhanger. And then I never finished the series. I never got the last book, so I'm excited to finally getting around to finishing this series, another series to put to rest. And yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of on a nostalgia trip this year, just going through these old books I used to love as a kid, and finally getting around to either reading them or just rereading them. So yeah, I'm looking forward to welcoming this series back into my life. Next, we have Fourth Wing, or the Empyrean series, I believe it's called. I've heard a lot of good things about this book. I've also heard some not so good things about this book, but I don't really care. I'm interested to get into it. I like the premise as well. A lot of my friends really love this book, have been recommending it quite a bit, and also last book came out this year, so I'm hoping to be able to actually jump on the trend and get up to date with the book series that came out this year. But apart from that, I'm really interested to kind of get into this, to see what all the hype is about, and actually, be included in conversations about books that my friends have. But anyway, that's aside the point. I'm interested to see how this book is. I've read through a little bit of it, and it looks pretty interesting, so I'm looking forward to finally getting into this series. Next, we have A Court of Thorns and Roses. Now, I read this book about 2 years ago. Well, I didn't actually read it, but I read a little bit of it, and I was really enjoying it. I really liked the premise. So I'm interested to actually get around to reading this series. Again, heard a lot of good things from my friends. I've also heard some interesting things from strangers on the internet, although I have one friend who absolutely despises this book series, but also finds it hilarious at the same time. So I'm quite interested to really get into this series and, really see what all the hype's about. Next, we have Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. Now, I never really got into the Percy Jackson series. I was always personally a Harry Potter fan, and I did have one friend that really loved this. I remember liking the movies, although, as I've kind of come to find out, the movies are kind of dog shit, but besides the point, I am really looking forward to getting into this series since, of course, there's the show that came out, and just from some of the things I've heard and some of the parts from this series, it sounds really interesting and exciting and just like a fun series. So I'm looking forward to getting around to reading it and, again, seeing what all the hype's about. Moving on, we have Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Now, again, like I said, I'm on a bit of a nostalgia trip, so I'm looking forward to also properly getting into this series. I always watch the movies, and I never actually read the books, and from what I've seen, there are a ton of differences in it, so I'm kind of interested to see what some of those changes are, and just, yeah, I've been kind of wanting to read them, Now, I know, of course, there are some things about with J.K. Rowling. I have my opinions on her, my friends know what those opinions are, but I don't think I'll share them here. But moving on from that, I'm kind of excited to get back into this series. It was one I really enjoyed as a kid, so again, on a little bit of a nostalgia trip, so this should be fun and sweet. Moving on, we have Air. Now, I don't really know anything about this book. I got this book as a gift from my dad, and it was one that's, from what I've seen, looks pretty interesting and like a pretty good read. I haven't seen anything about it online, but from what I've seen from the blurb, it looks like a pretty fun read, so yeah, looking forward to getting around to it. Next is The Hobbit. Now, I've been wanting to get into this series for quite a bit. I also have the full compilation of the 3 Lord of the Rings books. And yeah, I used to be a bit of a fan when I was a kid. I remember watching the Hobbit movies, loved those, even though, as I found out, they're kind of dog shit. And I love the Lord of the Rings movies. Never got that deeply invested in it, but I would have called myself a fan of the series. So, and I've also heard that if you want to get more into fantasy, since I really want to get more into some, hard fantasy books, it's a good start to start with The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings series, although, as my friend has told me, apparently that is a bit of they're apparently not that fun of a read, but I don't really care. I just want to check them out as well. And because some of the series I've been really wanting to read, the Stormlight Archives, Priory of the Orange Tree, the Poppy War, I think it's called, of course, A Song of Ice and Fire, and eventually, when I have built up the courage for it, the Wheel of Time series. But either way, I am really looking forward to, getting around to it. Well, that's a bit of a lie. I'm not looking forward to it, but I'm just interested to see what this series is like. Next, we have the Mortal Instruments series with Book 1, City of Bones. I remember really liking this series, and it was this weird thing where I had this book. I didn't even read that much of it. I think I only got like a quarter of the way in or something, but I really liked the movie as well, although I don't know what people think of that movie. If you are a fan of this series, specifically the book series, let me know down in the comments what you thought of the movie. I have to say though, this cover is fucking atrocious. When I get the chance, I'm probably going to get the other ones in the original cover, including this one, and probably give this one away. But I remember really liking this. It's urban fantasy from memory, which is a series I've always loved the idea of, so I'm really interested to see it. And I remember the premise was fucking sick. So I'm really looking forward to getting back into this series and, well, actually getting into the series and properly reading it. I'm really looking forward to eventually getting into this series, so yeah. And to finish off, we have Warbreaker and the Way of Kings, the first book of Stormlight Archives. Now, I paired these two together because, well, first of all, if you plan on getting into the Cosmere, from what I've heard, you should read Mistborn first, then you go on to Warbreaker, and then, of course, Way of Kings with the Stormlight Archive. Warbreaker, from what I've seen, it is a really interesting magic system, from what I've heard. From what I've seen, this looks like a really fucking interesting story. I've heard good things about it. One of my friends is a big fan of it. And of course, The Way of Kings, Stormlight Archive, it is his most acclaimed work. I've read a bit of the prologue. The funny thing was, what I had the most difficulty with was wrapping my head around the magic. But once I finally managed to, it's so fucking cool. Like, with the lashing, Stormlight, and shard blades. Dude, I really want to get into this series. I've heard so many good things about it. From what I've read, it looks really interesting. And yeah, I'm really hoping that I can actually pick up this series this year. But again, we'll have to see. But yeah, I am really looking forward to getting properly into the Cosmere, especially with these two books. So, out of my goals, what do I think I'll actually be able to finish? In regards to manga, I think I'll be able to get up to date with Berserk and Gokurakugai, no question, since I was binge reading through Berserk quite easily initially, and I just sort of slowed down about the 3/4 mark. So, once I'm back in the swing of it, I should probably breeze through it pretty easily. And Gokurakugai should also be pretty simple because, like I said, it's only like 20-ish chapters, so I'll get through it pretty easy. Along with Gokurakugai and Berserk, I'm pretty sure I'll be able to get up to date with Summertime Rendering and Dungeon Meshi, since both of those series are finished and they're not too many chapters, although I'm not 100% sure if I'll get through them. Moving on to books, I'll definitely be able to get through the Lorient Legacy series. I've actually surprised myself with how quickly I've gone through the series thus far, but to be fair, I've got a lot of time on my hands, which helps due to me being on a work break. Along with this, I'll probably also be able to get through the Fourth Wings and the rest of the Empyrean series pretty easily since they're not too long. My other guesses are probably Air, the Magisterium series, and Dune, although I'm not sure how many of the Dune books I'll get through, and if I'm lucky, all of Mistborn Era 1. I should also mention that I tend to switch up my reading order quite regularly. I don't know why, but for some reason, I just sort of do, and I change around my reading list. So if any of the books I mentioned don't end up on there, or I just don't mention it at the end of the year, or if there's some books, manga, or series I never mentioned in the first place that do end up on there, now you know why. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this fun little video. Stay healthy, stay safe, have a lovely evening and morning, depending on where you are, and remember to stock up on apples, lest you want a crazy doctor to start reading you off his TBR. Bye!